we've heard horror stories, secondhand and firsthand, from a variety of models who have said that they were injured on set or they got injured doing certain things on certain productions and things like that, and they won't come forward. They won't say anything because they're afraid they're going to be blackballed. They're afraid that people are going to talk about them, that people aren't going to hire them. You know, should they be encouraged to file suit?
Absolutely. The only way that performers and talent in this industry are going to get any type of fair shake is by exercising their legal rights. There's just no way around that. If you live in fear of not getting work, then you're always going to be a victim. You're always going to be taken advantage of. And people are going to continue to do that. And companies have gotten to this point now because they believe that they can take advantage of talent. And, you know, getting into the condom issue really quick. I told somebody in talent the other day, you know, we're talking about performer's choice. And it's like, we don't have a choice. I go, absolutely you do. And they're like, absolutely. If I want a condom, I'll never get hired again. I said, you know what? If all the performers got together and decided that they were going to walk on set and say, I want a condom, and if the company said, fuck you, we're not giving you a condom, you do the scene, you walk off set, you call Cal OSHA. Cal OSHA has to do the investigation. When about 10 or 15 companies get hit for fines, and the next performer walks on set and says, I want a condom, the company's going to go,
I'll spend the $2 on the condom.
Because I can't trust if you're going to walk off set and call Cal OSHA on me. So if performers are not willing to enforce their legal rights, we're going to be faced with a situation like Weinstein and AIDS Healthcare Foundation trying to enforce rights for them.
So let's talk a little bit about, because I just want to make sure everybody who's watching kind of knows what Measure B is and what's happening and...
Measure B is a ballot measure that was put on the ballot by AIDS Healthcare Foundation and Michael Weinstein in a manner to force the industry to use condoms. It has nothing to do with worker safety. It has nothing to do with performers' rights. It has to do with his desire to make sure that we use condoms in our product as product placement for his agenda. You know, 8 years ago, there was a hearing held by the State Assembly after the Jeremy James incident where he infected 5 people. And Michael Weinstein spoke at that committee hearing. And at the time, he could care less. He basically said that pushing condoms in porn was going too far. He said that he didn't understand why the focus was on the porn industry when there were so many people out in the regular world getting HIV. Why are we spending all this time and effort looking at porn and what's going on here? And he literally said that at the time, AIM Healthcare was better equipped to deal with the HIV in porn than even AIDS Healthcare was. So that was 8 years ago.
It makes the head hurt, doesn't it?
2 months after 5 people were infected. That was his attitude. Now we've been clean for 8 years, and now he feels that it's absolutely necessary to protect performers, when 8 years ago he could care less about protecting performers. And the only thing that's changed in porn in 8 years is a proliferation of free porn on tube sites. And
not the spread of HIV.
Nope. and that makes a very good way to get a message out. When you have 60 to 80 million hits a day going to free tube sites, and you can force people to wear condoms, now the world is getting the message of condoms in porn. Which, I don't necessarily think condoms in porn is a bad idea. What I don't like is mandatory condoms in porn. Okay? It should not be the government nor AIDS Healthcare Foundation forcing an industry to adapt to what they want, to send the message that they want. So it should be a performer's choice. It should be a company's choice. And I think there should be companies that say, hey, listen, we could actually probably sell more product by putting condoms into our porn. It's not going to help every genre. You know, it's not going to help bukkake videos. but certainly couples videos. You know, there's ways that you can incorporate condoms into a shoot that are not going to hurt your sales.
And it's my feeling on that it's one of those things that all options should be made available to the performers, and the
Right.
performers get to choose
Yes.
what they wish to use and what they don't want to use.
And honestly, most performers will not choose condoms
Mhm.
every time.
Mhm.
If you talk to most performers, and I talk to a lot of them, I would say probably 90% of the time they won't go without a condom.
Mm-hmm.
It's those times where their co-star, they're not sure about, something doesn't look quite right,
Right.
they're not really sure who this person is, that they would like the added protection
Mhm.
possibly of a condom.
Well, and I think that the visual that we're getting is, you know, the young girl who's getting bullied into doing something and not asking, and that's not what the case. You know, all of the options are there. They're apparent.
Well,
Yeah.
but truly the options may not be there for a
Mm.
lot of people. You know, not every shoot is going to be able to be condom optional.
Right.
There's some genre of porn that you just can't. It's going to hurt sales.
Right.
And there's some genres where it won't hurt sales, and it may even improve sales.
Mhm.
So it's like anything else. It's sort of like if you're going to hire a girl or a guy to do a scene,
Mhm.
depending on what type of content you shoot, you should probably hire people that will fit into
Who know
that
what
job
they're gonna
requirement.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about something that Emily and I were talking about when we were discussing this issue a couple of weeks ago, and truthfully, something I didn't even think about in terms of performers being allergic to certain
Absolutely.
products and them not being able to work if this measure goes in, and you know those kinds of issues. I mean, from my point of view, I hadn't even considered that as an issue.
And what people haven't considered is that you may not be allergic now, but you can develop latex allergies over
Absolutely.
exposure.
Right.
And if you're going to require people and make it mandatory, the really scary part of this,
Mhm.
okay, is we haven't had an HIV transmission in 8 years.
Mhm.
Okay, we've never had anybody die on set while doing a scene. Okay, no. I'm
Yeah.
not
It's
making a
true
joke of
to
that.
this, yeah.
Today, right now,
Mhm.
today, there was a gentleman that was killed working on the 405.
Mhm.
It was their first fatality in 4 million man hours,
Mhm.
okay, since 2009 when they started the Widening Project. Death at work is not uncommon in California,
Mhm.
okay? We haven't had anybody die. We've had people that were injured.
Mhm.
I handled a broken penis workers' compensation case. Lots of blood, but he's okay and he's back to
Mhm.
work. But with a latex allergy,
Mhm.
if someone has the most severe latex allergy, they can
That's
literally
it.
die on set
Just by being near it.
just by being near it.
Then you
And
have to touch them.
I think
Just
about
the dust or
The
the
dust.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
people who have severe latex
Severe.
allergies. Literally, if they walk into a room and touch a balloon, they're
That's
going
it.
into shock. And so I worry about the performer that develops a latex allergy
Mhm.
and is on set, and all of a sudden, bang,
Mhm.
they go
Anaphylactic shock.
anaphylactic shock, and now you have an untrained
Mhm.
director producer.
Mhm.
The girls or
Right.
the
You don't have
guys,
staff that's set
You-
to
there's
deal
no
with that
medical
situation.
staff.
Right.
you may have people that are more worried about calling the police because they're shooting without a permit.
Right.
They're shooting maybe without a Department of Health permit,
Mhm.
Right.
and it's like that scene in Boogie Nights
Yeah.
where they're in the back bedroom, the girl's going into shock because she snorted so much coke, and they're just like, get her out of here.
Mhm.
And that's what I worry about. I worry about an untrained producer, an untrained director,
Mhm.
having a girl or a guy go into shock.
Mhm.
And what do you do?
Mhm.
Are they going to be responsible and call an ambulance, call the police,
Mhm.
or are they going to try to do something stupid like put her in a car and drive her to the hospital themselves?
Right.
Right.
Because that's exactly what happened with my client who broke his penis on set. They drove him to the hospital. And I thought to myself, and then I realized, yeah, you're not going to call an ambulance because
Right.
you're afraid of getting
You're afraid of
busted
what
for
could
shooting
happen.
a permit.
Right.
Right.
So really, this is going to put someone at tremendous risk.
Yeah.
And I guarantee it will happen.
Mhm.
With the amount of porn that we shoot, with the amount of scenes, and the amount of times that people work, they will develop latex allergies. There's no question. We see that in hospital settings with latex gloves.
Yep.
And it's going to happen, and someone is going to go into shock at some point, whether it's this year, next year, the year after, or the year after that.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. You cannot avoid that. And someone may get seriously injured on a porn set where that's never happened before because of ballot measure B.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, and I was reading a little bit about both sides and, just kind of, reading a lot of things that you've written, but I wanted to hear a little bit about what the other side is talking about and what, and some of the things that they were saying in terms of comparing it to tattoo parlors or comparing it to salons or comparing it to, and I think the prevalent discussion on your side is really that it's not a one for one. Like you're bringing up tattoo parlors, and that's not what we're talking about.
Well, the tattoo parlors are open to the public.
Mm-hmm.
Salons are open to the public.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Joe Schmo can't walk off the street and go, "Hey, I want to be on a porn set."
They would love to.
They would
I'm
love
sure many high schoolers would love to do
Yes.
that, but it's just not possible.
It's just not possible.
Yeah.
And so therefore, you can't analogize tattoo parlors and salons and all of those 100 and some odd businesses that they require
or medical
licensing for.
professionals. You can't, because the argument was, oh, well, because they come in contact with bodily fluids, we need to treat them like medical professionals.
Oh,
What
you mean
are
the
the
blood?
what are
Yeah,
the
oh, you mean the
arguments?
bloodborne pathogens?
Right.
Mhm.
Well, because they come in contact with these fluids.
Well, that's really going to come back and bite the county of Los Angeles on the ass. 'Cause they're about to build a football stadium downtown, and I can promise you that as soon as that football team moves in and I see the first blood spilled on that field, I'm filing a complaint with Cal OSHA. There's no
Because
doubt
now
about that.
there
Uh-huh.
Because and the same thing with the Lakers,
Mm-hmm.
because if what we have to do when someone touches semen
Mm-hmm.
is that we have to stop the shoot and treat it like it's an exposure,
Right.
I want to see the LA Lakers. If
Stop
somebody
the game.
bleed, I want to see him stop the game. If it happens to be Colby, I want to see them take him out of the game, take him to get medical treatment, and then
Yep.
put him back into the game. Because if they don't do that, then they're in violation.
Mm-hmm.
And if a bloodborne pathogen happens to apply to us, it has to apply to any industry where there is blood or bodily fluids like that exchange.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, no one's coming all over each other and on the
No,
basketball
but I
court,
mean, if you're
but they
on
do
the court.
exchange.
Well, not on the court.
But they do exchange blood.
Well,
and
and they-
football
other
players
sports,
exchange blood.
How about
They're
boxing?
sweating all over each other.
Boxing.
Boxing is
Boxing.
not a situation where you have employees.
Mm.
Boxing, MMA, all of those are not realistic
Mhm.
because, Colby is an employee of the Lakers.
right.
Whoever, Joe Montana was an
Mhm.
employee of the 49ers. It's a funny story in workers' comp because Joe Montana filed a workers' compensation case.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was having his deposition taken, the attorney who was defending the 49ers asked Joe Montana if anybody had witnessed the injury. And he literally said, well, there's 70,000 people in the fans and about 3 million people on TV that day. But yes, they are employees. When I represented Fox, I represented the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
So they are employees. And this bloodborne pathogen would and should apply to any exchange of bodily fluid, including blood, on a playing field. And I told this to Brian Chase of AIDS Healthcare Foundation 4 years ago. I met him at one of the
You
meetings.
want to start down this path.
I go,
This
do
is
you
where
want
it goes.
it's not going to take long before somebody can take this and put it into professional sports, and they're going to blame you for it. They don't want to listen, but that's what's going to end up happening.
So I was also reading a little bit about the fact that this doesn't just affect, porn sets, but in terms of what about couples doing cam work?
Oh, you're talking,
or,
yes, you're talking about how they've written the law so broadly
Right.
that it's not just about porn, it's any commercial sex.
Right.
So if you're a monogamous couple who happens to cam on Stream 8 or Live Jasmine or on Live, and you don't have sex with anybody else, and you do this as sort of your kink, and you like to be
And a little bit of money.
exhibitionist, and you make some extra money to help pay your mortgage, now you will be required to have a Department of Health permit, and you will be required to wear a condom with your
Sure.
wife, or dental dams, or
Yeah.
like takes gloves.
Uh-huh.
I want to know who's
Yeah,
going to
that'll
monitor
fly.
this.
Yeah. That's a lot of. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's
I don't see them doing
unconstitutional.
it. Yeah.
It's unconstitutional when people realize that the government is now forcing married couples to wear condoms in the privacy of their own bedroom. At some point, someone's got to go, this is fucking insane.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Absolutely.